Okay, that's fun. I just had this idea that they're African dogs, they need African names. And of course I knew nothing about African names. I don't speak any indigenous language, to my shame. And so I bought a book on Zulu names and Zulu naming as an activity, as an action. I forget who it was by, but I've still got the book here. And reading this book, it was for me extremely interesting how culturally the name works in Zulu society, and so that people would be given an aspiration name, and then as you go through life, your name is a verb. It follows you as an action. It's not in a Western context. It's something vastly different. You know, in a Western context, you are named after a heritage, or you're named after a king or some great figure. Your name is supposed to impart something, as if it is a paper, that comes with you. In this book, what was quite clear to me is that in an African context, it is very similar to the way Africans breed dogs. It is a working context. Your name is a living thing. It's not a piece of paper that accompanies you on a birth certificate or whatever. It's a living thing. And so you would even be given a birth name, and that birth name might change through things that happen in your life, like the one that ran away, or the one that women talk about behind his back. They would that name would change as your life changes. And so with that intrigue and the amazing methodology of breeding these dogs in an African context, I decided naming them African names would be the most appropriate thing to do. And so I've tried to follow that as a naming methodology. First off, I start with African names for the dogs. In a dog handling context, you want names that are easy to say. So even though name Ketiwe would be the one that is chosen, because she came from a number of pups that came from a kraal, and we were the first ones to select which of the pups we wanted, so we named her the one that was chosen because she was chosen. And of course that in terms of working with her has just changed to become Keti, so we call her Keti. Her real name is Ketiwe. When I'm angry with her, I'll use her full name, and she knows full well Ketiwe means I've done something wrong, but Keti is a fond name. All my dogs have got these African names. The first dogs that I had, I named more in line with the sort of European tradition, because I knew less about this African naming process. And as we've moved on, they've moved into that kind of context. So I'll run through just these 5 that are here at the moment. So Lungile, which is happy, and she was the happiest of the pups that we had. So Nati, with me, that came from this idea that wherever I went, she would come follow me as a pup, and so we called her Nati. Zulu was the biggest boy in the litter. There were 3 boys in the litter. He was the biggest one, and so I called him Duma Zulu, which means here comes something big, here comes something powerful or significant. And of course we just call him Zulu, or Zulu boy sometimes when we talking fondly of him. Ketiwe I've gone through. This little one here is the more interesting. That's Finyezi. Finyezi means firefly in Zulu. So it's a beautiful name that describes her very fine build. She's like this darty little thing. She's fast, nimble, very active. And so I thought, even as a pup, I thought firefly would be perfect name for her. Well, she's turned out to be anything but a firefly. She is still fast and nimble, but she's ferocious. She's probably the most ferocious of all the dogs here, and she's the smallest. And so we ended up calling her Mfezi, which is a name for a Mozambique spitting cobra. So she's in her character far more like a Mozambique spitting cobra, which is a dangerous little bugger, than she is like a firefly. So that is the way that that the dogs have been named, and I try, because I try to keep it that way, because I like the idea. It's an African idea, it's an African thinking, and it's infused in the way that the dogs have evolved. And I think the name, the way of naming them then as an evolving verb is a far more appropriate way of naming these dogs than the sort of Western way of calling a Rover or Rex. He was a dog in a million, and I must say his son Zulu is very like his father. So even if you had not met Dube, you will see so much of his father in his son. We've allowed Dube to breed because a lot of people were impressed with him. He was just also like Zulu, a big boy, a confident boy, bold and steady as anything. I mean, that dog's personality was bomb-proof, and Zulu is proving to be just like his dad. And so, you know, a lot of people liked Dube, they were impressed, and so we allowed, over the years, I think we allowed about four breedings to take place with Dube, which is not a lot as a breeding male. You know, if you're looking at sort of Rottweilers, you know, or some show dog, you could look at 4 matings in a season, you know, not in a lifetime, you know. So Dube, we allowed 4 matings. And one of the things that was very interesting was that it didn't matter who he was mated with, his pups came out looking the same. His pups looked like Dube's pups, you know. They all carried his characteristics. And one of the last matings we had a chap by the name of Rom from Nelspruit area, from Groblersdal area actually. He said to me, because he had the bitch, so he of course had the pups and homed the pups, and he said to me, it's amazing how all of the pups breed true to their father. You know, it doesn't matter who the mother is, they all breed true to the father. So he was a very special dog, and there are a number of, when he passed, I put his his passing on Facebook, and people that I don't know, you know, would say, wow, we're living with one of his pups now, you know, and we just want to say what an amazing dog, you know. So he sired a number of remarkable dogs that people are extremely fond of, you know. He had a good impact. He was my lead dog in the dry land sledding, and the interesting thing that I found, when particularly on the war trail, when we did the 150 kilometers, I ran with him and his younger brother. I say younger, I don't actually know which one came out first, but his slightly smaller brother, Dunga. Dunga's still here with us. He's 17. He sleeps most of the time. You hardly ever see him. He's active around when food comes out, and then he goes back to sleep again. But as you can see, at 17 they are nearing the end of their lifespan. I don't expect any of them to survive much past Christmas, you know. They've had a remarkable life, and 17 years old for a dog this size is incredible. So Dunga was my fastest dog in training, and so I thought, okay, Dunga's my sled dog. Who do I take with him? Who do I pair with him? And it was a toss-up between Dube and Duma, his brother, and they were similar sized dogs, similar shape, you know, slightly bigger than Dunga. Dunga being fast, I thought, well, I've got a choice of Duma or Dube, who do I take? And just because Dube had the stronger bond with me, you know, I thought I'll take Dube. And so I trained with Dunga and Dube, and I'll tell you, on the war trail, you think 150 kilometers is not a significant distance. It's a significant distance. And I found that Dunga was good for the first 30 kilometers. He was in that run, and thereafter he just faded. And literally on his own, Dube carried me, pulled me and his brother the rest of the way. That dog had heart like nothing you've ever experienced. He put his shoulders to the harness, and it was literally him alone. Dunga was along for the trot, but Dube was virtually on his own, pulling me that 150 kilometers faster than any other dog team in the country. He had heart, more than a dog should have.